As 11.0.5 is fast approaching, the class meta for both Mythic Plus and Raiding is about to shift, and knowing which classes could shine and struggle has got to be key for staying ahead of the pack. We got some major class changes and updates coming, and it's crucial for you to know the biggest winners that are poised to dominate, and some of the classes that I think are going to fall behind. Today we're going to be breaking down the best and worst classes heading into 11.0.5 for PvE related content. Not wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. Also, we just launched our second channel. If you're interested in more game news and documentary video based content, we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Go check out the content here. It's pinned on screen, or you can check it out in the link below. Go take a look for yourself. Appreciate it. Right off the bat, I think the biggest winner heading into next patch has to be Hunter overall. Hunter's actually got some really nice changes to all three specs, on top of a complete rework to the Dark Ranger hero talent tree, which honestly desperately needed it. Pretty much Black Arrow will now replace Kill Shot, and it's all about getting those Kill Shot procs and using this ability during the execute window. For both of these specs that have Dark Ranger, you got a brand new passive called Death Blow, which will give a chance to allow your Kill Shot to be used on a target regardless of the health, which is nice. Banshee's Mark will sometimes apply a Murder of Crows, a couple ways to generate your AoE Black Arrows with Withering Fire, and then a couple more options that seem very, very fun. So if you're a Beastmaster or Marksman, right off the bat, you're in for a treat in just a few days with this rework. With Beastmaster individually, though, they're also increasing the duration of your barb shot, which is nice, so you don't have to spam it. And then for marksmanship in particular, some of the biggest ones include Steady Shot, Focus Passive, only having to use one shot rather than two, which is nice to get the haze buff. Precise Shot only causing your next Arcane Shot or Multi-Shot to deal more damage rather than it being two, which is nice. And then for Survival Hunter, they're making quite the amount of updates for like quality of life stuff, which include Butchery and Fury of the Eagle improvements as well. And listen, it seems like for Hunters, they didn't make complete reworks to these specs individually, just some individual tuning and sort of cleaning up for the rotations and talent trees, as well as a complete rework for the Dark Ranger stuff, which is really going to help Beastmastery and Marksman in particular. And with Hunter on the rise at the moment, with all three specs currently in the top 10 for Mythic, Raiding, as well as Marksmanship really pushing its weight in Mythic Plus, having all these changes included are for sure going to take this class to the next level, higher than ever before for the War Within. And I'm really excited to see how it pans out next patch, making it, in my opinion, a very big winner. Next up for our winners, though, you guessed it, we got to talk about the Paladin class. Overall, Paladin right now is performing exceptionally well when it comes to healing, with Holy being one of the best in Raid and Mythic Plus, while Rep Paladin is dominating in all forms of content. And then, of course, we do know Prop Paladin has been falling behind some of the worst in the game, but we're starting to see some changes and buffs coming this patch. Paladin is getting actually a complete rework to their class tree overall, with something like 25 brand new talents getting embedded, improving quality of life and versatility within the tree. And then, for example, you have your Worthy Sacrifice that will now automatically cast Blessing of Sacrifice, which is really nice. Another passive like Selfless Healer that increases your Flash of Light healing on allies and duplicating some of the effects on you. You have Light Bearer, where, it converts some of the healing onto you to be divided amongst your allies, which is really good for Protection Paladin. So I think you kind of get the point here. They're just converting a lot of utility, trimming things down so it feels a lot better, a lot smoother to navigate through the tree. So it's really, really nice. Now listen, coming Tuesday though, Retribution and Holy Paladin aren't really getting changes individually, just some slight buffs and tuning. The major star of the show has to be Protection Paladin, though. This class has been struggling since the launch, way more than other tanks, and it looks like they're getting some significant buffs to their Lightsmith hero talent tree and just damage in general. The one thing I will say up front is that they still aren't giving them more natural damage mitigation, which in my opinion is going to still be a problem heading into the future. I'm currently not really sure why they're buffing their damage by like 20 to 30%. On some key abilities, because over the last week in Mythic Plus, their damage has been the highest out of every single tank in the game. So honestly, I don't really know what the hell Blizzard is doing with buffing their damage and not solving their damage mitigation issue, because they are by far the squishiest tank in the game that could just get deleted out of nowhere. Listen though, overall, I think things are going great for Paladin. They're dominating before the patch, so you add all these changes, all these updates and reworks, I think they're going to eat very good come Tuesday. Believe it or not, now we have a really big surprise. Rogue is actually one of the biggest winners heading into the next patch, and there's actually a pretty good reason why I'm saying this. For Mythic Plus, Assassination is dominating, being one of the best DPS in the game, while in Raid, all three specs are performing exceptionally well at the highest level possible, so that's a very big win. Listen, currently Rogue is doing fantastic. Things start to get crazy when you add all the class changes. coming in the next patch, and that's why I think they're really going to excel right off the bat. Major quality of life is going to be the fact that Cut to the Chase now grants Slice and Dice duration instead of just extending it, meaning that you can pretty much remove Slice and Dice off your bar. This is something we've wanted for many, many years now, and it's a very big quality of life win. No more Slice and Dice. Thistle Tea will also automatically activate when your energy gets below 30, which is really great if you're a new rogue. And you also get a complete rework to Echoing Reprimand, making it a passive now that just activates on some of your key abilities like Shiv, Roll the Bones, or Symbols of Death and stuff like that. Additionally, you have a couple new passives to increase the damage of your Mutilate or Sinister Strike and stuff like that after consuming it. So generally, it's just there to reduce your button bloat, which is a nice update. For Rogue, considering it takes like 10 to 15 seconds to really get your damage out there. So that's a big win. Of course, there are some individual changes for like Assassination. You get a new passive called Twist the Knife that you can cause your Envenom to overlap and stack multiple times, which is really nice. Crack Shot will now refresh the cooldown of your Between the Eyes when you enter stealth, which really, really helps that class's rotation. Personally, I still hate that they're catering to this Crack Shot style of gameplay. I think it's garbage, but it is what it is. Some people like it. Subtlety is actually getting the most changes, I would say, out of all rogues, with them losing Sepsis, and then Invigorating Shadow Dust, which reduces their, cooldowns of everything whenever they vanish. They're actually completely getting rid of that now. But now a lot of their heavy cooldowns have been reduced in cooldown just drastically naturally. They get multiple charges of Symbols of Death now. Trickster's Coup de Grace doesn't have like locked on an animation now and stuck for that animation for like 2 seconds. It's just really smooth now. So they have a lot of quality of life updates for Rogue. Combining that with all the damage and the performance right now, man, Rogue is going to be eating very, very good come next patch. Easily be one of the biggest winners. Of course, now we have the class with probably the most changes in general. Has to be the Shaman. Right now, in its current state, Shaman is the best class in the game overall when you consider all 3 specs are just dominating in all stages of the game. Resto Shaman is probably the best overall healer in the game in this expansion. Elemental Shaman is a top 3 range DPS, while Enhancement Shaman is putting out the #1 overall DPS in a raiding environment. So wherever Shamans go, they're dominating. So let's get into the changes come 11.0.5. Ascendance for Elemental got completely reworked. It's not allowing you to spam Lava Burst anymore, but you automatically cast Flame Shock and Lava Burst at 6 nearby enemies instantly, which is really, really nice for kickstarting some damage. Additionally, your Elemental Overloads deal 150% increased damage, which can be insane when you combine it with Stormkeeper, which is fun. Not only that, you also get a couple different variants of visuals for Ascendance, so a lot of really good stuff here for personal preference. You also get a brand new passive to amplify your Lightning Rod if you want to go the Lightning Tempest build, which is fun, and then a brand new passive to cause your Lava Burst to consume a few seconds of your Flame Shock, which is kind of nice for some extra chunky burst. Something else that's nice is that Stormkeeper is pretty much going to be involved in every single build now, making it very easy to pick it up because it's at the top of the tree. And then Ice Fury is getting another complete rework, with it being able to proc off of a ton of abilities now, which is nice. And then causing your next Frost Shock to deal a chunk of AoE damage, which I really, really prefer now. Something I don't like is that they're removing the cast time reduction from your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, and then just simply reducing the duration of your Elemental Pets. So they're kind of stealing damage from other areas and putting it into more highlighted focus areas like Stormkeeper, Lava Burst, as well as your Ascendance window. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they like it. Enhancement, however, is getting some pretty damn big updates. Your Doom Wind's ability becomes an AoE damage effect whenever you activate it, which is nice. You also get a brand new passive called Voltaic Blaze that has a chance to make your Flame Shock AoE and also deal a nice chunk of AoE damage on its own, which is really, really smooth for the rotation in general. Ice Strike is having a chance to proc now rather than just an activatable, and then some updates to Crash Lightning when it comes to single target. I mean, listen, we all know the big highlight for enhancement right now is the rework to the Totemic Hero talent tree. Previously, really nothing worked for the Totemic Hero talent tree. It was kind of just a bust in all ways, shapes, or form, but they're pretty much just making everything, more streamlined and completely reworked with your brand new talents like Hot Hands, and then spreading your Flame Shock and stuff drastically. I personally really, really love this on the beta. I like it a lot more than Tempest for enhancement right now. Overall, it feels infinitely more fun than previously before, so definitely be excited for this one for you Enhancement Shaman mains, because you're getting a second hero talent tree that looks very strong. Overall, Enhancement is absolutely a winner coming in this patch. Brand new reworks to key talent trees, ton of class updates, and if they're anything like they are now, they're for sure going to be better than most classes of the game come Tuesday. Moving on to now some of the biggest losers. The reason why we're calling them losers, though, is the simple fact that they're falling behind in either DPS tanking or healing, while also not getting many changes, if not any, come Tuesday, which is putting them in a very scary spot, in my opinion. Let's start off with the first one. Sadly, we gotta talk about the Warlock. When it comes to Mythic Plus at the highest level possible, all 3 Warlock specs aren't even top 6 when it comes to just range DPS, and that doesn't even include the dominating melee specs in the game like Frost Death Knight, Unholy, Fury Warrior, Rogue, Enhancement Shaman. Not only that, all 3 Warlock specs are currently on the bottom echelon of DPS in general for Mythic rating, which scares me even more about this class. Here's the funny thing though, when you go to their class changes for 11.0.5, they're pretty much getting nothing changed to the specs overall. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty hyped about the Warlock with the state they were in during the beta, but good lord, the fact that all 3 specs aren't doing above average in any form of content while also not getting any changes has me severely worried about this class's future. If you're a Warlock main, it's looking pretty damn grim for you, I would say, come Tuesday, and hopefully they get some updates soon. Moving on to our next biggest loser, this may be a little bit of a surprise, but we got to talk about the Priest. I will say up front that I think Priest in a rating environment is doing pretty well right now with Discipline and Holy Priest, performing at least exceptionally well at a Mythic rating level. And even more surprisingly, Discipline Priest in particular is actually performing top tier in terms of Mythic keys at the highest level possible. So I will say those are some of the better things. When it comes to their damage department with Shadow Priest, however, they're kind of just below average in every way, shape, or form. Primarily, they're there for just fantastic off healing as well as power infusion for your group, because individually they don't really pick up the pace and they don't really bring a lot on their own individually in terms of damage. Once again, this class is another class that is struggling in multiple forms of content compared to the higher echelon classes in the game right now. The scary thing is they're not getting any drastic changes come 11.0.5, which does have me worried. As you can see on the screen here, these are the current Priest changes coming, and none of these are glaring or addressing some of the issues that the class is having, especially for Shadow. I mean, Shadow Priest still struggles with damage on the move. They have no on-demand burst damage without ramping up for like 15 seconds at a time to catch up to everybody. And in general, I just think both their hero talent trees need some damage adjustments and as well as tuning. I love the design. The numbers just simply aren't there for this class. I think all 3 specs have above average design. I think they have really good potential. I think we just got to see some tuning. This next one's really going to hurt me personally at the heart because one of our biggest losers we got to talk about is the Monk. Right off the bat, you gotta know that Brewmaster and Protection Paladin are pretty much neck and neck for being the worst tanks in the game, and both of these classes actually have very similar issues. Their damage is pretty damn high, but their consistent damage mitigation is just not fully there at the moment. Windwalker, on top of that, isn't doing well in both rating and Mythic Plus, and is severely below average in terms of overall damage. The design is there, I think, for Windwalker. I just think it's a numbers tuning problem. When it comes to 11.0.5, I will say that they are getting some nice updates to the Shadow Pan hero talent tree. That does look nice. The Shadow Pan Flurry Strikes when up proc on 240 energy rather than 300, which means you'll get to cast it a bit more often. Additionally, for Windwalker, they're getting some buffs to Flurry of Zuen as well as Blackout Kick, but I just don't think this is going to solve their problem. I don't think this is going to shoot them up to, slightly above average or top tier, which does have me worried for this spec. The star of the show for Monk, we all know it, is the Mistweaver in pretty much all forms of content, and surprisingly, they're getting the most additions and changes coming into 11.0.5, so that really shocks me. 5 brand new talents and a new passive, really fun updates to Crackling Jade Lightning, some additional fist weaving updates. I mean, listen, Mistweaver is going to be pretty damn good next patch, and I think currently at the moment, this class isn't raising any eyebrows by all means, but it ain't bad, so personally, I think it's in a pretty damn good spot. I'm just really worried about Brewmaster and Windwalker and being in the state that they're in, but I guess we will have to see what happens come Tuesday. And finally, our last, in my opinion, the biggest loser, you guessed it, no surprise, we have the Druid. Right off the bat, you gotta know every single Druid spec is either average or below average in any content form, other than maybe Balanced Druid and Mythic Plus. So, and for a class that has 4 different specs, that is mind-boggling to me that there's not one of them that is dominating in any form of content. Heading into 11.0.5, balance is probably the major highlight here. They're getting a decent size update. I will say flat out that these changes don't fix the major problems. They just kind of put a band-aid over them for now. Starfall's becoming baseline, gives you a nice extra talent point. Celestial Alignment's cooldown is reduced, and it also has 2 charges, which can be pretty nice, especially when you pair it with some other things in the talent tree, which is fun. So like every minute or so, you'll be dealing a nice chunk of damage, which could be nice for Mythic Plus. Also, nobody really likes it, but Wild Mushroom is getting a passive version where it has a chance to proc off your Sunfire. It could be some more damage. This might be good later down the line when you get some more gear and haste. And then generally, they're just trying to remove power away from stuff like Wrath and Starfire and shift it into some of their spenders so they feel a bit more impactful, which is something that they've been trying to do since the beta. And I'm hoping once again they try to keep on doing it and it can meet the mark. Additionally though, some of the bigger worries have not been addressed. One of those is that they have very poor defensive capability. That hasn't been updated. They can't deal some consistent damage on the move that is really high like some of the other classes like Elemental Shaman, and I think that's a problem. For Restoration Druid, thankfully, they're getting some nice updates like Nature Swiftness having 2 charges, Abundance getting buffed with the Wild Roots talent, Swiftman's cooldown being reduced, and my favorite has got to be Automatic Nourishes whenever you consume Clear Casting with your Regrowth, which I think is really, really juicy and fun. Listen, I still think the class might need a little bit more work, but there's definitely a step in the right direction for some of these specs. I just simply don't think it's going to be enough to push them into that upper echelon or even slightly above average across the board. To quickly wrap it up, also, Guardian Druid and Feral Druid aren't getting any updates at all. It's so shocking to me, I don't understand. But what you see is what you get for Druid for the most part, and that's going to come Tuesday for both of these specs. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up our biggest winners and losers coming for 11.0.5. There's a lot of really good class changes that I think is going to shake some things up, but there is a lot of losers out there that I think are going to be performing pretty mid to below average come Tuesday. I'm super excited for all the events coming on 11.0.5. A lot of reworks, a lot of HD tier set models. It's going to be fun, man. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Until the very end, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I will see you all in the next one. Peace. Hey, hope you enjoyed the video. Listen, if you guys enjoyed the content, we have a ton of other videos to help you get through the war within, like these 2 right here. And since you're already here, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button to join the Comeback Kids family today, because every subscriber matters. Thank you all so much for enjoying the video. I'll see you in the next one.